Today's video is dedicated to Casey McClara. Thank you, Casey. Vial Smasher the Fierce and Tymna the Weaver versus Aesi, Tyrant of Gyre Strait, another Lands Meta commander, Obuun, Daya, Ancestor, and then some more partners, Alena, Kessig, Trapper, partnered with Gilanra, Caller of Wirewood. That's a 2-lander with some ramp, so I think we have to keep that one. Just have to hope that we don't empty our hand too quickly. And we are playing first, getting to Command Tower, I think. Yeah, let's just go for a tap land here. And we've got a lot of red in the deck. I think red and black pips are near enough the same. We've got 3 red there, so let's just go for red and white. No turn 1 plays, everyone just getting out tap lands, Evolving Wilds being cracked over here. So we'll just go for Command Tower, and we'll get out the Rakdos Signet. Swiftfoot Boots for the Gruul player. And then Sylvan Scrying, search your library for a land card from Obuun. And the turn 2 plays are plenty, search for as counter for Aesi. Another land for us. I think we can go land, rock, commander here, can't we? So let's drop a swamp. Play a rock. And then I think I would rather have Tymna. If we've got any kind of chance of swinging into people, then I think we should go for Tymna. Because I'm not too elated about the cards we're drawing. At least we're keeping up on mana. But we're up against 3 green players here, so I don't expect to keep all of our rocks in play. And there is the second commander of the game, Gilanra. That will keep us from swinging in over there with Tymna. Wooded Foothills being cracked. Hopefully they just go for cracking the Cross and Verge here. Shocking in a Temple Garden. And instead just going for a Cultivate. Oh good, now, yeah, we're getting started early. Scoot Swarm from Aesi. And now we draw into the Pyroblast. So we could counter their commander potentially. Let's swing in with Tymna first. We'll offer up the trade. This is a 1-1, isn't it? Yeah, it'd be crazy if it was anything other than a 1-1. So they can either block the Tymna to keep us from drawing a card, and they get rid of Scoot Swarm, or we will draw here. Not blocking with the Scoot Swarm, as you would expect. So we'll pay a life and draw a card, and get into comeuppance. So I think we're okay to drop a mountain. And let's go for Vial Smasher the Fierce. And then I think we're just holding up Chaos Warp and immolating Gyre. Argument to be made for us going for Magmatic Channeler there to knock the Summoning Sickness off of it. Yeah, maybe should have done that and just held up the Pyroblast. Now a track down from the Gruul player. And forgot to mention that this deck is brought to us by Mythic Patron Casey McClara. Casey supports the channel at the Mythic tier, which is $15 a month, so that allows him to give me a deck of his to play once a month, and he's obviously decided to give me Tymna and Vial Smasher. This is like a Spellslinger deck. The only thing I've changed about it is the mana base, because it did have a lot of tap lands in here, and running a lot of tap lands as dual lands is just way too slow for Magic Online. The cards are really cheap, like Mana Crypts and Mana Drains and stuff, so you can't really be playing too many tap lands unless you want to be a turn or 2 behind for every single game. So I've got the fetches and duels and shocks and things like that in here, but everything else is exactly as he gave it to me. Thrill of Possibility from the Gruul player, and discarding to that and Infuriate. then ending the turn by putting Hexproof and Haste onto the Gilanra. Now another commander coming out, Obuun, Daya, Ancestor, and dropping a land straight away into that, so putting a plus counter on the Obuun. Then making the untapped land that they've just thrown out an elemental land, which does have haste, but they decide not to swing in, which is very curious. I think I definitely would have gone in towards the Simic player. Just looking at the graveyard over here, they've binned a forest at some point, which I assume was to the Search for Azcanta. And now throwing a Trade Routes in the bin as well. We'll see what else they do here. I might still Chaos Warp the Scoot Swarm. Yeah, they're not doing anything else, so they can get themselves into an insect here. Will Lightning Bolt someone with Vial Smasher. And watch them get into a big, huge creature off of the Chaos Warp here. Whenever someone uses it against me, I just get into a land. Lightning Bolting the Naya player, which is at random. They crack the Fabled Passage to get an insect, as you would expect. Doesn't look as though they're going for counter magic. And that lands, so we don't have Scoot Swarm to worry about anymore. They get themselves into a Zuran Orb off of the Chaos Warp, which I don't mind too much, to be honest. Now we could go for Immolating Gyre, just to clear the insects out of the way and then swing in with Tymna. I know it's a bit anticlimactic, but yeah, we could go for that. If we're going to do that, we need to hold up the Pyroblast still, so let's throw out the Arcane Lighthouse. And we'll attempt an Immolating Gyre. This will deal 6 damage at random to someone with Vial Smasher. We'll see if we can get counter magic out of the Simic player's hand. We can't apparently, so let's swing in towards them and we'll draw a card with Tymna, hopefully. Hopefully we're not looking like too much of a threat to the other two players. Managing to hit them, maybe should have gone for the Vial Smasher into the Gruul player as well, just to draw some extra cards. Because this does trigger on the number of opponents you've attacked, but I think we're doing a lot of control already. And I just want to show my opponents that we're looking over towards the Simic player. Getting into Sol Ring isn't bad. Yeah, that makes up for making a tap land next turn. Yeah, so maybe should have drawn a couple of cards there, but I'm just trying to politic a little bit. Because in my experience, sometimes Simic players don't get the respect that they deserve. The fact that the Forest didn't swing in over here kind of suggests that. Now Alena, Kessig Trapper. Then making mana with the green commander to equip the Swiftfoot Boots. And they tap mana equal to the greatest power among creatures they control that entered this turn, so that's obviously 4. Gets them into a Palladium Mirror. And they'll be able to equip that up to make a 2 mana rock if they want to. But clearly don't have one, or they don't want to remove Hexproof from the red creature. Now Khalni Heart Expedition from the Lands Matter player, or the Naya Lands Matter player. Then playing a land which triggers the expedition, puts a counter on the commander. And I dare say that this commander will come in at us. Then Springbloom Druid to make more landfall. Might have to start holding up comeuppance. So getting all the counters they need on the Khalni Heart Expedition thanks to the Springbloom Druid. And obviously more counters on the Obuun as well. So it's 3+ counters on Obuun at this point. And they've decided to put a bunch on the Springbloom Druid as well, animating the Crowson Verge. Because it's the only untapped land they have. I don't think this untaps the land, does it? No, it doesn't untap it. And yeah, as I thought, the 6/6 coming in at us. We're not taking commander damage at least. This is a very conservative Obuun player. Not going in with their commander. Although we are holding up white mana, so they might be worried about losing their commander. Curiously, the Simic player is just passing the turn again with 5 cards in hand. They've put another land into the bin with Search for Azcanta. We get into a swamp. Let's play out Yeah, I think we're okay to just play the Sol Ring straight away. And we deal damage to the Gruul player there. So now I think we're okay to go Tymna into the Simic player. And we'll take Vial Smasher into the Gruul player. So that to the left, that to the right. Okay, and that's just what they were holding up. It is a manland. That is green and blue, so we can blow that up with Pyroblast. Destroy a target permanent if it's blue. Oh, it has hexproof. Alright, so didn't realise that that thing has hexproof, so that's a mistake on my part. Yeah, so we just lose Tymna here, unfortunately, which means we're not going to get the card draw from that. Yeah, that's quite annoying. I mean, we encourage the Simic player to tap out at least. Yeah, apologies for that. We'll put her in the command zone. And let's just get her straight back out again. Doesn't look like we're going to be seeing much in board wipes, so I'm going to go for the Magmatic Channeler. And we'll play out the tap land in Mistveil Plains this turn. Yeah, missing out on potentially at least one card with Tymna there, but like I said, at least we got the Simic player to tap out, although I don't think it's going to be relevant necessarily. Now, Fin-clad Fugitives. That is an Encore. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, and it's a 7/4 for 6 mana. They draw a card because they used mana from their commander, which means they can tap their red commander down for 7. And there's an Avenger of Zendikar. Alright, so if people were looking in our direction, which I think they were, I think they'll be looking at the Gruul player now. Playing a land after that to put some plus counters on the plants. The Naya player goes for Terra Eternal. All lands have Indestructible, which is more relevant when you've got manlands, of course. Then Sylvan Advocate, which is a 2 mana 4/5 with Vigilance. Now cracking that Krosan Verge eventually. The 9/9 land is Indestructible, of course, and that goes in towards the Gruul player. And the 5/5 Springbloom Druid comes in at us. We'll just have to take that. Alright, what is Clever Impersonator going on? I think that's just going to be another Avenger of Zendikar. I think we do have to counter that. And we'll deal 1 damage to someone at random. Tymna only triggers on our turn, unfortunately. But it doesn't look as though the Simic player is going to get a lot of creatures out this turn, so hopefully we'll still be able to deal damage to them at least. Okay, Torment of Hellfire. There are some Infect enchantments for the Vial Smasher. And if we cast a big spell, then it's going to deal X damage and we'll be able to knock someone out with a one-shot effect like that. Maybe we can just dump a bunch of mana into Torment of Hellfire now. No, I think we'll just swing in at the Simic player with Vial Smasher. I'll tell you what. In response to that, let's discard that Torment of Hellfire because I don't think we're going to make use of it yet. Maybe should have done this, in fact should have done this during the first main phase. And then we can go for an instant or sorcery, hopefully. Okay, Dual Caster Mage, Strionic Resonator. So we'll choose the Dual Caster Mage there. There's nothing we're going to do with Dual Caster. So let's just cast it now for the sake of having a body in play. We're just going to hold up Comeuppance this turn anyway, I think. And then dealing damage to them with the Vial Smasher. Tymna triggers. We have only dealt damage to 1 player, unfortunately, so we will pay a life and draw a card. That is a crystal, so we will cycle that because we're doing okay on mana for now. Okay, and there is an Ignite Memories, which we are nowhere near storming off with that. Might do that next turn just to deal a decent amount of damage to someone. As long as Vial Smasher stays in play, that is. Yeah, so let's just leave it there. We'll hold up the Mistveil Plains and the Comeuppance. The Gruul player tapping out for something big here. That might be Genesis Wave or something like that. Nope, it's Phyrexian Triniform. And they'll draw a card from their green commander. Now Meteor Golem coming down as well. Not sure what they want to go for with Meteor Golem. Probably the Vial Smasher. I think they'll go for the Vial Smasher. I would have my eye on Obuun personally, but yeah, we'll see. Yeah, they do go after the Obuun. Okay, and in response to that, Magic Online player does Magic Online things and scoops to removal. So we might make use of this comeuppance here. The 5/5 Avenger of Zendikar goes in at the Simic player. The 7/4 comes in at us. I think we just chumped the 7/4. It doesn't have... Oh, it does have evasion, doesn't it? Can't be blocked by creatures with 2 power or less. Yeah, I think we'll wait for the Alpha Swing with comeuppance. Search for as counter triggers again. Exploration's been binned at some point, which I didn't see. This time throwing away Nissa's Pilgrimage. They flip the search for Azcanta into Azcanta the Sunken Ruin. Let's see if they're going for their commander here. They are. And I think they should be able to play a land here. They get into Gaia's Cradle. Draw a card. Let's see if they've got another one. Even if we could do something against Aesi here, I think we need to leave them alone so that they can try and help us against the Gruul player. Okay, Mizzix's Mastery. We can pay it without playing the mana cost. That is 5, 6, 7 and 8. We've got that. What do we get? A Chaos Warp. Immolating Gyre, that doesn't really help us necessarily. Yeah, we could clear... Yeah, Immolating Gyre could help us actually. It gets rid of most of their creatures. Okay, so in that case, let's go for an overloaded Mizzix Mastery. And I think we dealt the damage to the Simic player again with Vial Smasher. Okay, but there's a Force of Negation anyway. So I don't think we were ever going to land that. I'm just looking at this now. I haven't played... There's no primer for this deck, and there's one thing I need to ask the patrons to do. Don't write me a novel on your how your decks work, because I won't read it. I don't have time, but if you could write something about your decks and how they work and interactions that I need to keep an eye out for, then that would be very helpful. Mizzix's Mastery. It exiles the cards, so... Looking at it, Immolating Gyre wouldn't have worked there anyway. What we should have done is cast that for 4 mana, exiling the Immolating Gyre. And that might have been allowed through as well. So, okay, we'll just leave that be. We can't cast the comeuppance now anyway. Can we get lands with Magmatic Channeler? You can play them this turn, so yeah, we'll try and get a land into play. I don't think we've played a land. We'll just discard the Ignite Memories because we're trying to hold up comeuppance. Alright, there's a Dragonskull Summit, so yeah, we'll put the Dragonskull Summit into exile just so we can hold up comeuppance. And then as much as I would like to attack the Simic player, try and go wide, I think we just need blockers. So Tymna not going to do anything for us, unfortunately. Now it's round to the Gruul player again, and there is Rampaging Baloths. Playing a land for the turn, triggers the Baloths and the Avenger of Zendikar. The problem with comeuppance and the plant tokens is that they'll deal damage to themselves equal to their power, and with the plant tokens, their power is always less than their toughness, so... Won't take them out, unfortunately, but we'll get rid of some creatures with a comeuppance. It relies on things turning in sideways at us, though, of course. Then the red commander can tap down for 6 mana. And that is a Titanic Growth onto the Phyrexian Triniform, which makes that a 13/13. Then ram through, target creature you control. Deals damage equal to its power to one you don't control. And the excess damage goes through, so they'll deal 1 to the Simic player here and get rid of their commander. Hopefully the Simic player doesn't get salty and just scoop in response to this. And yeah, of course they do. Magic Online players, Don't do that, because it really does shape the course of a game. Now they've got more creatures to swing in at us, which could be the difference between us losing and, well, not losing. We don't know what we're going to draw into, of course, but the Simic player just deciding to scoop in response to that. Now a Proud Wild Bonder. Creatures you control have trample. Yeah, so they're obviously just going to swing everything in sideways at us this turn. Now, hopefully they turn everything in sideways at us, assuming that they've got the game, because that'll open us up to hopefully deal some damage to them. Although, yeah, they've got some summoning sick creatures they can hold back. Alright, so let's go Comeuppance in response to the attacks. And that deals 4 damage to the only opponent that we've got now. At least we know who we're going to be hitting with Vial Smasher from now on. But I imagine our opponent has this one. We'll take out every attacker here apart from these plant tokens. At least the plants can't get any bigger without Avenger of Zendikar in play. We'll just take the damage, of course, so that they deal damage to us, and therefore Comeuppance deals damage to them instead. The Triniform kills itself and they'll get some Golem tokens here. Okay, Tainted Strike, it's yeah, way too late for a Tainted Strike. Let's discard that. Okay, Volcanic Vision, Decree of Pain. Wow, that is, yeah, there's some really good top decks there. I think it might have to be Decree of Pain in this one. Although Volcanic Vision, return a target instant or sorcery from graveyard to hand. Deal damage equal to the CMC to each creature your opponent's controls. So with Volcanic Vision, we'll keep our own creatures in play. The highest toughness there is 4. So if we bring back something with 4 CMC, what do we want? Maybe we just grab the Immolating Gyre again, so that we can do one-sided board wipes. Yeah, let's go for the Volcanic Vision there. Tempting to refill my hand with Decree of Pain, but I think we need to try and play the long game and keep our commanders in play as long as we can. So casting that, we whack our opponent for 17 and clear their board, and then we can clear their board again. Yeah, the value is 6 on there at the moment. Let's swing in at them. And we'll draw a card from our Tymna, of course. Gain a bit of life from the Tymna as well. Okay, Shreds of Sanity. Do we want Shreds of Sanity? That gets exiled, I think. Yeah, it does. It makes the Immolating Gyre less valuable to us, so I think we just keep hold of that for now. Our Gruul friend only has 2 cards in hand. Alright, well, the Gruul player is saying good game. And he's been a really good sport about it as well. So we'll see if he decides to concede or if he just passes the turn. Nope, he just decides to call it a day there. Let's see what we were drawing into. He just had a Fyndhorn Elves. That seems to be the problem with these commanders. You need to get into the effects that keep you in cards when your big creatures hit play. And if you don't, then you're just kind of chaining off big creatures, and then the first board wipe kind of knocks you out of the game, which is what happened there. But yeah, a big thank you to Kessig for allowing me to play his Tymna and Vial Smasher deck. I'm sure I made plenty of mistakes with them there. I've never played with this famous combination of cards in Tymna and Vial Smasher. But you can see what he's going for here. It's one-sided board wipes in order to be able to keep getting in with combat. I think, I just want to nip over to the deck list because I think there's some things that I would do slightly differently. Yeah, so as we can see here, the curve is really good on this. But there's some things that, I mean, obviously it's meta dependent, but you're just going to get a massive target painted on your head if you go for this. Phyresis and Tainted Strike, stuff like that. I get that you can one-shot players with Vial Smasher, but you can't exactly choose which players you one-shot with it. So I think I would bin those for... We need some better removal And we need some more card draw as well, I think, because we can't just rely on Tymna for card draw because we're not always going to be able to get combat damage off. In this case, I'm going to go Read the Bones is in there. Painful Truths is really good in 3 colour decks, so that is definitely staying in for obvious reasons. What is the Whisper card draw spell in black? Yeah, that's the one. Night's Whisper I'm going to put in there, because that is just 2 cards for 2 mana, which is pretty damn good. Like I said before, it's a Spellslinger deck, so it focuses around casting lots of spells, but we do need to keep our hand full if we can. Then there's some stuff in here that isn't... Then there's some stuff I feel as though should be in here and isn't, like D-Spark I'm a great fan of. Yeah, Mardu has some of the best removal in the game, and yeah, a lot of it isn't actually in this deck, so if we go D-Spark, we want... Yeah, that's it, Anguished Unmaking. And what about Bedevil as well? Yeah, Bedevil, obviously a really good card in this. Destroy target artifact, creature, or planeswalker. I don't know what the budget of Kessig Maclara is. I assume this is just a paper deck. So things like Diabolic Tutor is in here instead of Demonic Tutor. Demonic Tutor, just like I said with the jewels and the fetches and stuff, Demonic Tutor is a lot cheaper on Magic Online than it is in real life, so if you were going to play this on Magic Online, you would get Demonic Tutor instead of Diabolic, because it's a hell of a difference in mana cost. But assuming that this is more of a budget list, then just assume that you do whatever you want with your mana base, as you have done. And yeah, I don't actually know the paper prices of things like Anguished Unmaking, Bedevil and D-Spark, but I assume that they're a decent price. I wouldn't have thought they could be too expensive. And then there's another one that I would quite like to add, the Monk that throws out tokens, just in an attempt to keep us in creatures that we can potentially swing in with. Monastery Mentor is the one I'm thinking of. So that will trigger on non-creature spells, which we've obviously got a lot of in this deck. And that should help us to keep going in at our opponents. So just looking over cards to cut here. Firebrand Archer, whenever you deal a non-creature spell, 1 damage to each opponent. So cards like this and the Gutter Snipe, I think, go well with the Infect plan. That's obviously meta dependent. I personally don't think the deck is fast enough for online. Online you would have to put Gutter Snipe into play and then put Infect on it and then cast a load of instants and sorceries, and I just don't think you're going to be fast enough in this deck to do that, so argument to be made for keeping Gutter Snipe in anyway because it can deal incremental damage, but I'm just going to take both of those out for now just because we're trying to cram in a bit better removal for you. And then Sunforger, yeah, I'm going to keep it in the deck because I imagine that Casey won't want to cut it. The type of player that wants to run Sunforger usually builds around it. I mean, you have to build around Sunforger. It's just one of those cards. It's a really good card, but it's only for very, very niche decks. Argument to be made for it fitting into this one, but yeah, I'm not entirely convinced by Sunforger personally because it's 6, 7 and 8 mana in total to do one thing with it. But like I said, gonna keep it in here because I imagine Casey will want it to stick around. And then looking around, I might want to shoehorn Path to Exile in here as well. I'm trying to make budget suggestions. I'm not sure how much Path to Exile is now. I mean, no matter how many times they reprint this, it seems to hover around, I think it's around the $5 mark in paper, so you might not want to go for Path to Exile. Obviously, take all of my suggestions with a grain of salt, as ever. And then looking over here, I don't like to run too many X spells personally, because the way I think of X spells is that they are like 6 to 7 CMC and up. You want to dump a lot of mana into X typically. I don't think I'd feel too great about spending 4 mana on a Damnable Pact because it's 2 life and 2 cards when we've got cards that we can go for that are 2 mana for the same effect. Same with the Torment of Hellfire. We didn't want to go for that earlier on, so we just ended up discarding it. I think instead of by force, and this is a good card, don't get me wrong, but just for the sake of cutting an X spell and not having too many of those in the deck, I think I want to replace that with Vandal Blast. Whilst Vandal Blast is 5 mana and you might only want to put 4 mana into the X spell, Vandal Blast has massive upside in that it can get rid of all of your opponent's artifacts, and that might help towards the plan of one-sided board wipes, like we had the Phyrexian Triniform and the Golem tokens in play. Maybe someone casts Mere Battlesphere or something like that. So yeah, I think that goes with that plan quite nicely. And then if you want to cast Vandal Blast from your graveyard for just 1 mana, then that's alright too. Although you could also cast the X spell for just 2 mana and get rid of 1 artifact. So yeah, like I said, it's a judgment call and take what I say with a grain of salt here, but I highly rate Vandal Blast. Now, I might be missing something here. I'm not entirely certain what Chance for Glory is in here for. In very niche scenarios, it could get you an extra turn and allow you to get some extra damage on with Vial Smasher, but yeah, I think this might be one of those niche cards. I'm very, very tempted here to cut the Sunforger and the Chance for Glory. Yeah, I can hear the comment section screaming at me for not getting rid of Sunforger, but in a Mardu deck, it's very difficult to ramp outside of artifacts, and I can just see scenarios happening more often than not in which the artifacts get wiped out, and then Sunforger is much more difficult to make use of. Yet again, a judgment call, but I think if you're taking my word for it, would get rid of the extra turn card and the Sunforger. Oh, and actually, just looking over at the hazard thing here, yeah, I forget you need to go down to 98 cards with partners, don't you? Maybe it's Fury Storm. I mean, the upside of Fury Storm's really good, but you've got a lot of cards in the 4 slot, and I'm just trying to pay attention to the curve here. It might actually have to be Blind Obedience that comes out, you know. Blind Obedience is really good. It slows down your hasty opponents. New commanders like Aromi really get hosed by Blind Obedience because the tokens come into play with haste and want to attack that turn. And with something like a Blind Obedience, it does stop them, but yeah, I think we have to cut Blind Obedience there because all the other cards are just too good. I was looking at Fury Storm, but Fury Storm just has massive upside. It leaves the card in the graveyard, it doesn't exile it. And then if you get to cast it with something like Past in Flames or Mizzix's Mastery, then there's even more upside to it. That adds to the Storm count, and then you can maybe go for Ignite Memories or even go for Ignite Memories off of the Fury Storm. So yeah, I think it has to be the enchantment there. So with that being said, we are now done with the deck. There's more edits that we could make there, like cheaper tutors, Mana Crypt, maybe a wheel, like a Wheel of Fortune, could go in the deck as well. I mean, there's a million and one things you can do with a Spellslinger deck like this. I'm just going to leave it there, and we'll see what Casey McClara thinks of that one. Massive thank you to Casey for sponsoring the video and supporting the channel at the Mythic tier on Patreon. You can do that as well, with the link in the description below. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe if you did enjoy the video. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.